One of us is stationary, one of us is not, or could be on the move at any moment. Okay, welcome to It's Sybil. I am Sybil Wilkes. Hello, Ahmed. How are you?
Sybil Wilkes, how you feeling?
I'm okay. How are you?
You know what? Soccer practice.
Oh, soccer. It's still so
Soccer
light
practice
out
today.
there.
It is, but the moon is right in front of me. The moon is
Okay.
right there. So he letting you know. The lights are all on in the soccer field. So, they're letting us know. Time's almost up.
how how long is soccer practice?
For another probably 20, 30 minutes.
Okay. Okay. And the kid is good?
He's doing all right.
Okay.
Holding his own.
A very honest dad. Very good. Very
He's
good.
doing all
Were
right.
you
He
a
holding his
soccer
own. He's
player
got,
back in the day?
hey, look, he had 2 shots on goal that were really strong. He had a really good goalie last week. He scored about 3 or 4 goals so far this season. So he's doing all right. He's
He
doing
is
okay.
holding his own. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Were you a soccer player back in the day?
Yes. As for most of like American kids, like our first sport. You know what I'm saying? Throw them in soccer. Like
Well,
soccer
you're of
is the
that
funny.
generation. You're of that generation
Right.
where, yeah,
It's the funniest thing. As soccer being like the 4th most popular sports in America, it's the #1 sport for
in the
kids
world,
in the world. But in
in the
America, it's
world.
like the #1 sport for kids. Like that's
Yeah,
how most of us get introduced into sports is some kind of soccer of some sort.
a
Between
little
the
head
ages
bump
of
or
something.
what?
So
About 3 to 5 years old. They're introduced.
yeah, my son started when he was like 4 or 5. So
Yeah.
he's been playing for a few years.
Wow, he's an
He
old
started
timer.
earlier than I did because I started in the 4th grade.
And why was that? Why were you so late?
I was playing other sport. I actually got introduced. I played basketball first, and I realized I was terrible at that. Then I played baseball, god awful at that. And then my parents just said, "Let's just try something easy. Kick the ball, son." And that's what we did.
And did you go all the way through high school playing soccer?
Absolutely not, because in high school they really, really, really encourage running. A
Oh,
lot of
okay.
it, and that wasn't my thing. So we
All
switched
right.
over to football.
Okay. And was the hitting and tackling, was that a big part of it too?
Oh yeah, no, I was better at that. I was a bigger guy, so you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying. I'd rather not run all that. I mean, they were like, I'm like, y'all run a lot. Like like the practice is mostly running. And like this is not track. What is this? I'm
Right,
not doing this. I'm like,
right.
y'all have a good one. Cause I could have played soccer because soccer and football were 2 different seasons.
Sure.
So I could have played soccer, but I was like, no, y'all running way too much for me in practice. Way too much.
The basketball great Grant Hill, his dad was a professional football player, right? And
Hmm.
he talked about, growing up and his parents exposing him to a lot of sports and stuff, but he decided that he did not want to have anything to do with football. He wanted to be inside, not all that running. I mean, there's considerable amount of running, but not all that running, and it wasn't that hot. He could play in a climate to where the temperature was good, and he didn't have to worry about all that. That's how he chose basketball over football.
I mean, also the hitting. That's the main thing. When you when you hear
Well, he
basketball
said,
players say,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, it's usually I got hit one time and I was done. There's been
right,
many in Oklahoma drill that made football players basketball players immediately.
yeah, yeah. Now he didn't admit to the hitting, and the pain that could ensue, but he was definitely about where it was more comfortable and didn't have to do a lot,
Absolutely,
and he
absolutely.
could just do that.
Yeah, I'd rather hit than run. That was my thing.
Do
Not
you
running.
miss it? Do you miss it? Do you want your son to play?
Football?
Mhm.
No, not necessarily. Uh, just I think like a lot of. I mean, I love football, and if he ever wanted to play it, I wouldn't stop him from doing it. But my son already knows. He's like, man, they hit too hard in football. I ain't doing that. And I'm like, I'm fine
Mm.
with that. I am okay with that. There's too many things that can happen. Like I, I had concussions, Sybil, where I
Yeah.
forgot where I forgot what happened that day. You know what I'm
Wow.
saying? where I had to watch the
Wow.
tape. I'm like, oh, that was happening. Where I was cracking up during the prayer. I forgot people's names. You know what I'm saying? I didn't remember what to play
Wow.
with. I've been hit that hard. You know what I'm saying? So I've been there, and I've gotten in 8th grade and my senior year in high school. I got concussions.
Wow. And
So,
your wife
so
is in
yeah.
the medical field. Does she have a thought on that too?
She would prefer him not to. She would
Yeah.
prefer him not to.
Yeah. Bless your heart. Oof. That's scary.
Yeah,
That's
forgetting
yeah.
like forgetting people's names.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Like
yeah.
literally
That's
sitting there. Like it came back to me like days later what happened that day. But like that night, I remember now getting hit. Remember, like just kind of the cobwebs getting shook up in my head, and
mhm.
I just remember how slow it happened. Where it was just like I'm standing there, and the next thing you know, I'm like, "What are we supposed to be doing here?" And my
Wow.
teammate and my teammate looked at me. He's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "What are we supposed to be doing on this play?" And he looked at like he was like looking in my eyes, and he said, "Time out."
Wow.
My teammate comes, he's like, "Time out." He's like, "You got to get him out of here. You got to get him out of here. Like he's gone." And I was just like, "What are you
Wow.
talking about?"
He
I
might have
said, "Tell
saved
me
your
what to
life.
do." He's like, "Dude, you don't know." He's like, "I couldn't remember anything." And then when I got to the sideline, uh, a teammate of mine's like, "Hey, do you know what my name is?" And I looked at him. I'm like, "I don't. I
Wow.
don't remember what your name is." I couldn't
Wow.
remember anything. I couldn't remember anybody's name. I was gone, but I was there. Like they'd ask me, people's. I couldn't remember anything. So it was one of those situations where after the fact, when I'm fine, I was cool. My mom, alive at the time, she was at the hospital working, and my sister called her and told her what happened, and she's like, "Don't let him go to sleep."
Right.
That was like the only thing. Don't let him go to sleep. She got home around midnight. She's like, "Keep his ass up until I get home." And I was trying to go to sleep. I wanted to
Of
sleep so
course.
bad,
Yeah. I
and
know you
my
right.
sister kept on slapping me in the face, and she took enjoyment.
That was her
She's like,
favorite
"Hey,"
job.
I was just like, "Look, I'm just doing what Mama told me to do. I got to
Okay.
keep you up."
Okay.
And I'm just like, so, but it was very crazy. Like the next day, it was the Monday after I went to school. We watched the film, and I'm looking at the video, and there was a certain point where I couldn't. I'm like, I don't remember nothing after this.
Wow.
And so I watched the video, and they were like, "Oh, that's where it happened." He's
Did you
like,
see where
"Woo,
the
that boy
guy?
knocked you clean out." Like, we
Right.
saw when it happened, and it was just,
Hmm.
it is. So like when I see like players like Tua happening 4 times, I
Yeah.
was like, dude, I was
It's
like,
time.
bruh, I remember the one time where I was gone, and you're doing it, okay,
Now I
okay.
get it. Now I get it. Okay, because at one point we were doing news stories, and every day Med was putting in a story about the Miami quarterback. And I was like, okay, day one, yes. Day two, hmm. Day three, that's a little much. And day four, I was like,
Especially since both of us can't pronounce his last name correctly.
right, right. And then there was that. I was like, I just can't say, yeah, to us,
Tongue of a
yeah.
little, like tongue of a little. I'm like, I just heard Sybil cussing me out that third day. She goes, "Man, stop it
How many
with
times
this
are we gonna
quarterback."
do this dude's story? Really? You were in sympathy with
I
his
was in
case,
sympathy. He need to come sit down for a while, and he
and
is. He's
you
sitting
like
down for a while.
laughing at me trying to pronounce his
Oh,
name. Yeah, thank
it
you.
was hilarious,
Yeah, thanks.
hilarious.
Thanks so much. I'll
Not
get
a
you for that.
problem. But
Thank you.
I took my verbal cussing out remotely. Well, I was like, there she goes. She's like, "Man,
Gosh darn it. Okay. All right.
why does he keep putting the story in here with this name that I can't pronounce?"
This poor man, and I can't pronounce his name, and he's got multiple concussions. What the heck? It's crazy. But I get it now. I get
Yeah,
it now. Okay.
yeah. The Brotherhood of
Yeah.
Concussions.
Yes, yes, yes. It's a large and growing group, I'm afraid.
Very much so.
Med is with me today, and it's going to be the two of us. Damon is traveling from Edmonton from a comedy gig. So
And boy,
let's
are his
talk.
arms tired.
Oh, look at you. Where's the rim
Ha!
shot when we need it?
Yeah,
Where's the rim shot?
yeah,
We should talk about the What You Need to Know newsletter. We're in it now. 3 weeks from today is election day, and actually this time things should be wrapping up in a number of the cities in the Midwest as well as on the East Coast. Another hour or two, unless you're still in line. And if you're in line when polls close, you can vote. Don't forget that part
yep.
of it too. Yeah. And so we'll talk
Early
about
voting starting today in Georgia. Early voting
early
starts
voting
today.
and good numbers too. We're going to talk about that in trending. Very
Yep.
good numbers. You guys showed out. Did you go vote today?
No, I fell asleep.
Oh.
My midday nap.
Hmm.
No, but I was on the phone with one of my friends, and he was actually going to vote, and it
Oh,
reminded me.
good.
So I'm definitely gonna get it done this week. I love early voting. I get that thing out the way. I don't like dealing with day of voting. I don't know why anybody does.
Well, there were lines upon lines upon lines. Folks just did better by a certain hour this afternoon than they did the whole first day of early voting 4 years ago.
Yeah, I was surprised. Like, I know we're gonna talk about it later, but I was very like he was. We were talking about it while he was there. He's like, I wasn't expecting this line to be this long for early voting. I'm like, oh, it's a long line. He's like, no, it's a very long line. I'm like, he's like, I might. He's like, he was thinking about leaving,
Uh
but
huh.
then he was like, nah, let me just go ahead and get it done. Let me suck it up and we'll get it done. So he got it done today.
Good for him. Good for what a good American. So Cameron wrote about the situation with President Obama and how he kind of gave brothers a good talking to when he was in Pittsburgh a few days ago. We'll talk about that in relationship to what we heard from Vice President Kamala Harris today in the town hall with Charlemagne the God. Did you get a chance to listen to it?
Yeah, the last 30 minutes. The
Okay.
first 30, for some reason, they did not want to let me in. But
Oh
the
wow.
last 30,
Okay.
we streamed up in there. We were in there.
Okay. Okay. All right. And also in the newsletter, just to talk about a couple of other things, um, the health section, I should say, talking about the vice president gave her full medical report and revealed it and released it to the public, while they're still waiting on something from the former president Trump. He is often he's not very forthcoming in talking about his health condition, his physical or mental health. He likes
Oh
to talk about.
no, no, we're waiting for his doctor. His annual doctor to let us know how tip top shape he is. He's 6'5" and
And
195 pounds,
right, right,
and
right.
and is as strong as a 23-year-old. So we're
Yeah.
waiting for that report from his
Um, th-
doctors.
that doctor is a little suspect, Ronnie
Woo.
Jackson, who is now a congressman. So I guess he's doing double duty as Donald
Oh
Trump,
wow,
still his personal physician, and as a congressman.
that's
Interesting.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah, my words exactly. And also 8 tips for maintaining weight loss in health, and that is a situation which is a challenge for many of us. Ensure you're eating a healthy amount of calories. Cutting down on calories plays a significant role in weight loss and maintenance. But you want to ensure you're getting healthy calories daily to fuel your body and reduce your risk of developing mental and physical problems. Mental problems if you're not getting the right type of calories, I guess. Uh, let's see. Coy Malone talks about a deaf man with cerebral palsy who was violently arrested on false claims, and this was in Phoenix, Arizona. The man's name is Tyron McAlpin, who was deaf, cerebral palsy, and experienced a violent arrest at the hands of the Phoenix, Arizona police. Take a look at that. That's just so disturbing in so many different ways. And his girlfriend was telling them, she intervened and told them what the issue was, his blindness as well as his cerebral palsy. And that never made it into the report.
When it comes to those kind of situations, I feel like the police officers know what they're doing and they're just having fun at that point, and the other person's expense. Then you can't be that stupid.
Right, right, exactly right.
That
Uh,
situation.
a- and it is Katrina Kraft Day, CPA to the stars. She talks about partnerships versus corporations, key differences in those two and how to make your choice between them: a general partnership, limited partnership, and corporations, the types of corporations, if you are intending to go into business. So keep that in mind. And with that, Med, let's also now move to what's really going on. And I chose this because of all the conversation. As I said, Cameron wrote about it in today's newsletter. This was also a focus, supposed to be a focus of today's town hall between Charlemagne the God and Vice President Kamala Harris. There were some questions that were related to black men, but in terms of, I thought it was just going to go full force into that. There was, of course, questions about immigration. There was questions about marijuana legalization. There were questions about that getting that 40 acres and a mule, and where she stands. And she pretty much laid out, Med, her plan for the African American men, which was quite lengthy. But one of them is about black men not being about adults and not being charged for having marijuana or using marijuana the way it was as a higher class felony, and changing those things. That's a part of it, as well as promising to help people who are going, the entrepreneurs who are going into business, into helping them with a large sum of money. Now, this is also a part of her equal opportunity plan, but definitely black men, who are out there trying to create their own, maybe not getting a fair shake in their business world and deciding to go into business. And she is going out there to and stepping out on a limb, enabling them with money, and perhaps forgiving all bad loans regarding going into business.
Sybil, I don't know, maybe I heard it wrong, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this. I think what you said is mostly, is was very true when you said equal opportunity. I really didn't hear a plan for black men. I heard a plan for it was a plan for everybody. Everybody has access to that. Like what she was offering for black men as she was laying it out, and I was listening to her talk. I was like, so anybody can get this. You know what I'm saying? Anybody in like a
Mhm.
certain bracket, like financial bracket, depending on what kind of situation they're in. It was more so, if you're in this situation, you can get these things.
Mhm.
And it just so happened that most likely black men are in that situation, but it's not exclusive to black men. Now, I have no problem with that. You know what I'm saying? I have absolutely no problem with that. And Kamala Harris did let that, I think she let that be known. Like, other people will have access to to these things. But we know when it comes to these situations that mostly black men are are in these situations, and black entrepreneurs are in this situation because they didn't have a silver spoon put in their mouth as a
Mhm.
baby. So I understand that, and she put that forward. So I'm hoping that, because we know what happens when is that, well, you do this for this, you do this for these people, you do this. Why can't you give us an exclusive black people only what I'm saying, benefit that only we can get? And I hope that is not used against her, because she made it very clear that anybody has access to this, but it's particularly for black. It is
Well,
kind of made towards black men.
I get what you're saying by listening to what she was talking about in the town hall meeting. But in her plan that was announced yesterday, it's about legalizing recreational marijuana and providing opportunities for Black Americans to succeed in the cannabis industry. 1 million
Okay.
fully forgivable loans up to $20,000 for Black entrepreneurs and others to start businesses. A plan to come up with rules for cryptocurrency and other digital assets. More than 20% of Black Americans own or have owned cryptocurrency assets, according to the campaign. Invest more in Black teachers, promote registered apprenticeships and credentialing opportunities in Black communities, and investing in leadership training and mentorship programs like My Brother's Keeper, which is President Obama's organization. A national health equity initiative focused on Black men that addresses sickle cell disease, diabetes, mental health, prostate cancer, and other health challenges that disproportionately affect Black men. So she didn't.
Yeah.
She didn't. like 1, 2, 3, 4, like that in the conversation today. But it is written out and it is presented. You can go and find that. But as I said, Cameron talks about it in the newsletter for tomorrow, and also uh, she plans, and this was also a part of the group that she planned to meet with today, was with Black entrepreneurs um, after the town hall conversation with Charlemagne.
Got you.
And she's
Like I said,
but
I was like I said, I'm everything she said was fine to me. I just know how it can be used against her as well.
hmm
Um, listening to the conversation today, I thought it would be kind of an easy, toss up to her, this conversation. But
yeah, kind of a lob. Yeah.
I'll give Charlemagne credit for throwing some questions in there. I didn't think he was kind of being himself. He threw some questions out there about the border, about the things that I think she was prepared for, but it was like I'm like, oh, okay,
I
like
wanted to
let's see.
see, and I listened to it because it was radio, and but I understand it was also on some TV channels. But I wanted to see her reaction to some of those questions because she's not going to like a "Mm," you know.
Mhm.
But it didn't seem like she was prepared, not prepared, but it didn't seem like it was like, here are the questions I need you to ask me, and then go
Right?
from
No,
there.
no, I know I don't think so. Like I said, he threw some questions in there while they were waiting for either a pre done call or something like that. He would throw like a zinger almost at her right
hmm
before those things. You go, while we're waiting on this, hey, sorry, what was up with that? You know what I'm saying? So
hmm
it was that kind of stuff. So um, he would just kind of throw those zingers in there that I don't think, she was particularly ready for, but I kind of had a sense that she was kind of ready for kind of some throw-ins by him. So I'm not saying at all that she was kind of coached through this at all, but I thought actually it sounded good, um, and I think that she didn't do anything to harm herself from the town hall.
Maybe I didn't make myself clear. I just got a note from Yolanda. We are in the question of the day and asking people, did you listen or watch the town hall today? And what did you think of her performance and that her being the vice president's performance? And if you had the opportunity, what are the questions that you have not heard answers to that you would like to ask yourself? You yourself would like to ask of her.
You know what the funny thing about that is, I really don't have any questions for Kamala Harris. I really don't. I mean, I think I understand the position of the Democrats. I understand the position of what Joe Biden is trying to do. There's nothing that she's going to say, or I've interviewed politicians before. There's absolutely nothing I can gain from interviewing a
You
politician.
sound like Yolanda Starks White.
There's literally nothing you can gain by interviewing a politician. Actually it's very frustrating.
hmm
It's one of the most frustrating conversations you could possibly have.
Well, what about some that are just kind of off the wall, but just to give them, give you a sense of their fun side or their character or something like that?
I mean, look, we know she smokes weed. She's a
She
gun owner.
smoked. She
She
smoked.
smoked. As I'm saying, she smoked. I'm sorry, she smoked weed as
All
in
right.
the past. We know that she's a licensed gun owner, and that she will blast your ass if you break into her house. You know what I'm saying? We know we've heard her respond to the black and Indian conversation.
hmm
I would probably, as a parent, would love to know more so about her relationship with her stepkids. You know what I'm
I would
saying?
like to know her relationship with her father. If there is anything, because all there seems to be is when she says something that her father doesn't agree with, he sends out this missive that goes national, or sends it to the good people of Jamaica, saying, I can't abide by my daughter's conversation about marijuana, and how this is not how we want to be perceived as Jamaicans, that kind of thing that
Yeah.
happened a while ago. um but it doesn't seem like they have and I think, for me, having grown up for the majority of my life without my father, I'm always curious about women's relationships with their dads, and how that might affect them going forward. Like, my mother had a really strong relationship with her father, And, he said, that he was going to give her the best education that his money could buy so that she would never have to depend on anyone. And when my father died, she did, it was as if there was a time of mourning, but she picked right back up and took care of us. Um, I was just wondering what that did to her, by her mom being that person. How did that affect her opinion of her father, of men in general?
That is something that's very interesting. And being of Jamaican descent myself, um, it's always very interesting to understand her. I guess that's right. Like for me personally, having the Jamaican background that I do, is her connection to the island. You know what I'm saying? Her
Hmm.
connection to that part of
Yeah,
her ancestry.
Jamaican Indian American that's a big deal. We call her a Black
That's a big
Indian.
deal, especially when it comes to Jamaicans and how many
Yeah.
Jamaicans are in the country, as we speak right now. And my thing is, when people question her blackness, I can understand where the confusion can come, because if you go
Mm.
to Jamaica, the background of a lot of Jamaicans is a mixture of things,
Right.
not
Right.
just Africans, but Indian, like
Yeah.
Indian,
Yeah.
African, Chinese.
Asian. Yeah.
It is there. Okay, so
Right.
so
Right.
like my grandfather, if you looked at my grandfather, you would think he was an Indian man. You know what I'm saying? So, so the background, our background is so mixed up in Jamaica that
Hmm.
if you do an ancestry, it can go all over the place.
Right.
So I understand why there can be confusion and the whole black. But the thing is that we have an issue in America, especially amongst African Americans, when it comes to Africans
Hmm.
or black people from other countries. Try to separate the two. Heck,
Right.
African Americans, so some of them have just claimed black as their thing.
That's right.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So
Yeah.
it's a very divisive situation in our community, the black community of America, African American, Africans, and then break up the Africans into different countries. You know what I'm saying? So
You're right.
it's very divisive, and it can hurt when we can't stand together as black people. You know what I'm saying? In that situation. Um,
But a
Another thing,
lot
of
of a
course,
lot of the disconnect between Black people and Democrats, I blame on the Democratic Party because as much as and I I get why they're not, Black men are like, no, not this time. And they may think that Donald Trump is the answer for them. I don't agree with it, but they have shown their allegiance to the Democratic Party. They've shown it. And, for them to just assume that they got, Black folks in their pocket again is wrong.
it's
It's
absolutely wrong. Um, I have no problem with black people becoming or going Republican. I have no issue with that whatsoever. But for me, this is just not the year to do
right,
it.
right. Not
I
not
was
this
like,
year. Not this time. Yeah.
any other time
You
that
might have made
that
a mistake in 16, 20, but this time for real.
I'm cool at any other time. And let me tell you why. Especially after watching the vice presidential debate, I'm
Right.
sitting here just like, oh, that's right. At one time,
Remember?
it was like presidential stuff. It was like, okay, this is it's boring. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
It's not combative all the time. It just feels like this is ain't the time. But I understand why. I get it. I
Yeah.
understand. I get it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And the thing is that I feel like Democrats are so tone deaf.
Right.
But I'm very excited to see a lot of them go away, and the younger generation come up, because I feel like some of that tone deafness is going to start to go away as well.
Well, some of these Black Republicans are getting on my nerves, but because of their allegiance to Donald Trump,
That's weird to me. That's
yeah,
absolutely weird to
yeah,
me,
yeah.
because
I can't get
we
with
had
that.
Yolanda Adams on recently. She came up in the studio and she was just like, she doesn't understand how Christians, like Christian nationalists, are tying themselves to him so tight.
Hmm.
It does not make sense.
Yeah, I
You know
got
what I'm
one in my
saying?
family.
You can
Yep.
be you can be Republican, Republican, but at a certain point, you got to look at the person and say,
Right.
this does not fit what I am looking for in a president.
Right. Right.
It doesn't make sense. But you're so scared of losing power for 4 years that it's like, oh, doesn't matter, just vote Republican. And that's why I feel like the two-party system sucks so bad, because you don't have that third option of like, okay, this doesn't fit what I want. Let me go with this third option that I can still, get behind. That's not Democrat, you know what I'm saying? But still can have some of the values that I'm looking for. And we
I
just
think
don't have that.
I think the vice president might have heard Yolanda on your show, because today she gave a shout out to her church home in San Francisco and her minister, Reverend Amos Brown. So that was like, I know whereof I speak. I have a church home. He was my spiritual leader, and
Mhm.
and maybe kind of moving people off of that. I know it hasn't done it for my cousin. I know for sure that she's so uh, single focused on this, and being a pain in the butt to the rest of us
Mhm.
by maintaining her stance with Donald Trump. But um, overall, I like the questions. I don't like the way they address her oftentimes. Kamala, I wanted to know from Kamala, and I was like, give her the respect of her title.
Madam Vice President.
No. There were, some people that I just wanted to ask Kamala Harris, yeah, but others were very respectful of her
How?
title.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, yeah,
I can understand that. That's also, us kind of making it like a comfortable. We're
yeah,
very comfortable with her. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And it's
yeah. But
and I think it's because of the years of her being senator. And
hmm
and even though, look, I've like I said, I've been around Barack when he felt, you know,
okay, yeah, yeah,
I've been around President Barack Obama when he felt like he's being disrespected by not using certain titles.
yeah,
I've seen
yeah,
that, and I'm
yeah.
like, oh, it's a thing.
Okay,
So
yeah.
I understand that.
I hope when
It,
she becomes president that we don't become so comfortable with it that we don't give her the respect of the office.
I,
Everybody likes to say, "Oh, Joe," they do that, but she's worked so hard for this, and if she gets it, she deserves every single time to be referred to as Madam President.
I do want to bring up the reparations part because we've had
Yeah,
discussions
I
here
didn't want to talk about that. Yes, yes.
several times about reparations and how I feel about reparations, um, and I think that it's time for the Democrats to kind of change their tone on it from, yeah, we have to do our because it's always we got to do our research. Yes, we're gonna do our research. We're gonna do our research,
Hmm.
and the key is, and again, ever since we had a conversation with the young lady from Evanston, Illinois,
Right.
it changed my mind on how we need to look at reparations. And it's that 40 acres and a mule ain't never happening. Get off
Hmm.
that. You know what I'm saying? You have to get off and it's okay, I believe, for a Democrat to say we need to get off that.
Right.
But but what we need to look at is how in the 60s, the civil rights era, we can look at that. The direct effect of that to current African Americans in this country right now. When it
Right.
comes to housing, when it comes to redlining and all this other stuff, that's the way I believe reparations should be looked at
I
moving
agree.
forward. But this whole 40, like, just give us money, that's not gonna work. You know what I'm saying?
No,
That's not gonna work.
no,
The 40 acres
no.
and the mule, that's not gonna happen. Let's look at tangible assets that we can give African Americans who've been affected by policies that were in place back then, and has affected their lineage since like the Jim Crow era.
Right.
That's more tangible. But going
Right.
back to slavery, that's almost impossible.
That's
Almost
impossible.
impossible because you can't trace it. You can't trace it.
But I agree. When Cameron had a woman on who was talking about reparations in the city of Evanston, Illinois, and how important that was, to do it as the people who have been there, and like you said, you can trace their times in the city, and regarding real estate and things like that, where it can make a difference for another generation in keeping up
Absolutely.
the family home, for
Absolutely.
instance. Yeah. We have a couple of comments, Yolanda. Amy W on YouTube says I did not watch it because I don't consider Charlamagne someone I get my political information from. I would and Dora Levette Tiggs on Facebook said I don't know why she continually has to prove herself to gain the black vote. This is business as usual. Blacks don't support each other. That just breaks my heart. Because I think there's a certain amount of truth to that. It's like you got to earn this. I'm like,
Well, okay.
hang on. H2O Ice. I listened via MSNBC. I have no questions, but I think when race and reparation questions comes up, it bothers me because it's we the people, and I don't want other races turned off. Oh, that's interesting take on that. So, what do you think about that? About talking about reparations and turning white folks off?
Well, I mean, Charlamagne did ask that question. Do
Yeah.
you feel like it's like it's a policy amongst Democrats to talk about black items that
Hmm.
it turns off people and it makes them? I'm like, that's very, in my opinion, it's true. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Nobody, especially white people, don't want to hear about what you're going to do for black people only. They
Right.
don't want to hear that.
Right.
Let's be. I don't care if they're an ally or not. They want to know what you're doing for this country and
Right.
how you can help this country. And to be
But then
honest,
it's not bad to have a little wink, wink. But here's something for the brothers and the sisters.
right, but it's like because I don't care if you're an ally or not. As a white person, they'll hear what you're gonna do for black people, and they're gonna think, well, how does that affect me?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If you're
Yeah.
doing that for them,
For
how does that
them as
affect me?
opposed to us.
Because
Yep.
because nobody's gonna think about, well, back then, like if look at it.
Yeah.
Being the token black guy at a white school, I still got friends and plenty, and most of them, if I'm on Facebook and I'm seeing their pages, oh, they love Vance, they
Hmm.
love Vance, they love all that. You know what I'm saying? And then there were times where they would come to me and ask me questions. You know what I'm saying? They're like, "Hey, man, I don't understand this.
Right.
Why should we be punished for something that happened in the past? Why should we be looked at a certain way because of something that happened in the past?" I told them, I get it. I understand. But I'm just like, it's not about you.
Right.
It's not about, you shouldn't feel any kind of way. It's not an attack against you. We're just trying to, make things fair. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? But in their mind, it's like white people, they can't put themselves back there. They can't have empathy for something that happened years and years
Yeah.
and years, decades ago before they were
Generations
born.
ago. Yeah.
They can't, like, what am I, like, you guys are fine. Things are equal. What are you talking about? You make more money than me. I'm
Right. Right.
broke. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Okay.
What?
Okay.
What white privilege? I'm broke. I
and
got a mortgage to pay. This is what
okay.
he's telling me. I'm like, I hear you, but
So we have.
you're making it more general than anything. So I'm just saying those people have a hard time hearing what they're gonna do for black people when they're like, listen, I need money, I need help. I'm a small business owner. How is that gonna help me?
I
That's what they're
need.
looking
We
at.
need to. We're at the end of the segment. Yolanda is killing me. But I do want to make the point. If you did not feel that as though Charlemagne was the one to do the interview, check out Roland Martin's interview. I had to sit down with the vice president and check his out too. Okay, so just because he's very political, very informed, and a very good journalist. Okay, all right. So Med, let's talk about trending topics.
Mm-hmm.
This is, as I mentioned, Georgia officials report a record turnout on the first day of early voting in your fair state. They did not waste time. Within 6 hours of polls opening Tuesday, the presidential battleground state posted a record turnout for the first day. Gabriel Sterling, the chief operating officer for Georgia Secretary of State's office, said that more than 150,000 people voted by 1 p.m., beating the day-long tally of 136,000 from 2020. And by 4 p.m., Sterling said close to 252,000 people went to the polls. That's pretty impressive.
No, it's very impressive. I really do believe, because I remember when I was younger and I was voting. Like I said, the first time I voted was the first time I was eligible to vote was for Al Gore. That was the
Hmm.
first time I was eligible to vote, and I just
So that was
remember,
2000.
yeah, 2000. So I just remember, it was always election day, election day, election day. You know what I'm saying? And then I honestly believe, I think the first time I voted early was 2 elections ago, and I'm like, oh, this is better. This
Yeah.
is so much easier and so much better. So I think people who kind of found out, like kind of learned that early voting is easy to do,
Hmm.
and it's not no pressure, and it's not like, oh God, I gotta either get off of work, I gotta stand. Once like it kind of became a thing,
Hmm.
I think it's going to keep on growing, and you'll see more people voting before early voting than there will be voting the day of the poll, the day
Well,
of election day.
and you're right, because 2020 was an outlier because of the pandemic.
That's true.
And so they did make efforts to get people out, and if you were going to vote in person, the spreading and all of that. But they were also looking for ways to reduce that because they saw that people were coming out even in light of the pandemic.
Yeah.
You
No,
know,
no, absolutely. But no, I think that was huge when it comes to early voting. The people didn't want to just they wanted other options than just to
right?
stack up on voting on election day. And I think like they said, the push for early voting was heavy in 2020. And but I think for me, 2016 was the first time I early voted, and I just enjoyed that a whole lot more
Yeah,
than.
it's
than,
and
than
I like doing it, and I like going to different places that offer early voting, not just to the same place.
right,
And to see, sometimes if I go to a church, it's very peaceful, and or a
quiet,
library.
move through real quick.
Yep,
Ain't no
yep,
worries. It's like
yep.
okay, it's like I've been to a church, a mega church down here for early voting, and they were set up for like 1,000 people to show up, and I was the only one in there. I'm like, this is
Wow,
nice. This is a nice little setup right here. I
wow.
like this.
So I'm
I like
wondering what
this.
that was like. We're going to talk about voting tomorrow with our friend CK Hoffler, who is going to come on and talk about if you find anything that doesn't seem right. There are a lot of rumors that are going around. If they make a mark on your ballot, it will not be counted and things like that. And what to do if you find yourself in that situation when you're at the polling place. This is big news, not big news. It's interesting news because a former Fox News personality, Geraldo Rivera, has publicly endorsed Kamala Harris, hitting
That's
out at his
good.
previous loyal friend turned sore loser, Donald Trump. The veteran newsman and longtime Trump acquaintance who backed the former president through some of his greatest controversies took to Twitter, X, to throw his support behind the Democratic presidential candidate in a lengthy 570-word post. I wonder if that's going to be removed by Mr. Tesla. In the social media mini essay, he denounced Trump as a sore loser, condemned him for his big lie, falsely claiming that he won the 2020 election. And he said he's a sore loser who cannot be trusted to honor the Constitution. And that's what a lot of people are saying. That's why I'm voting for Kamala Harris to be our 47th president.
I mean, it's just going with the trend right now of like some old school Republicans who just
Right.
don't want to see the Republican Party, go down that MAGA hole
Mm-hmm.
again. You know what I'm saying? Um, and they understand that if Trump does not win, then that's a wrap. The
Right.
whole MAGA, it's pretty much done. But if he gets in, it's that ain't going nowhere.
Life is
That,
not going to be good for many of us. I don't care who you are on
no,
the
I mean,
political spectrum.
because it's just going to create this thing and give it more life,
Yeah.
and then the policies he's going to put in place is just going to strengthen it even more.
And
The
everybody's
public,
going to say, I was just playing.
I'm telling you, these old school Republicans are trying to get their party back,
Yeah.
and they know that and they understand being politicians. They understand we'll take this we'll take this L,
Hmm.
we'll take this Republican L, so that we can
Right. And I
build
think
back
that's what
new.
people like Liz Cheney and them are hoping for. Mitch
Yeah,
McConnell, that's why he's holding on in the Senate, hoping that, he can get some power back within the party as well as in the Senate, which is why they're really pushing for a lot of these.
absolutely. They're trying to say let's take this L and let's cycle these guys out of here.
Yep. Yep. Get rid of them. But the Tea Party, started it all. And those guys, just, remain to a certain extent to be, a little something under the skin that's irritating to the Republic, to the MAGA
Mm-hmm.
party. The Biden administration announced today that the nation's loan program for disaster survivors is fully exhausted of its funding. Lawmakers, the only ones who can greenlight more funding, are slated to be out until after Election Day. That, of course, is
Ugh.
3 weeks from now. Without congressional action, the Small Business Administration can't make new loan offers to people trying to rebuild businesses and homes hit by the disasters, the twin disasters that we've had of Helene and Milton. Speaker Mike Johnson said that he does not intend to call lawmakers back to town before the scheduled November 12th return. However, saying over the weekend it would be premature to gavel back in to approve emergency disaster aid before states have calculated their recovery needs from the two hurricanes. You mean to tell me they're not already doing the gazentas on this and figuring out what the losses look like, and you're going to use this as an excuse not to bring your people back and to help people? Come on, Mike Johnson.
It's one of those situations where it's an election year and it's probably not the best move for y'all to do. You know what I'm saying? 3 weeks from the election I mean, you're just giving ammo to the other side
Yeah,
by doing that.
absolutely.
I'm
And
very
you have
surprised
a
that
small
they would
enough
do that.
lead already. And you know what that small lead has done to your party and to you. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely
Right.
ridiculous. So he's holding on, but some Republican lawmakers have publicly indicated they might be open to returning early if the agency said they were out of money, and without calling them back to the Capitol, the congressional leaders could use their brief pro forma sessions to pass an emergency funding bill for the loan program, and any lawmaker could block that. In the meantime, President Biden urged Americans to continue to apply for the loans so that they will be in line when the money finally comes through. He said he doesn't see them not coming back and not giving the money to filling the coffers again, but they still want people to have done their due diligence to get their applications in line, which makes sense.
Right. No, it does. It's just like I said, with everything that's come from the hurricanes that have hit, right now, it's like the government is looking crazy, honestly, because from conspiracy theories of the government controlling the weather
Right.
to like, understandably, I get it, but the optics of $750 immediate relief is like, hey,
Well, that's immediate. That's,
immediate. No. As
yeah,
I said,
yeah.
the optics,
Not total. Right, right, right,
the
right.
optics of someone saying, and it's not just somebody. Of course, it's MVP Kamala Harris
Yeah,
saying, being the one that was trotted out there to say $750 immediate assistance,
right.
and like I said, the optics, and when you hear it, it sounds crazy if you just when you
And
look
the
at it.
flurry of the moment.
Of course, of
Yeah,
course. And
yeah,
especially when it happened, when people were suffering, you were hearing so much things about FEMA and
right,
misinformation was put out about that. It was just like, what is going on?
right.
So it's just the government's looking kind of funny right now. And so when now you hear this headline and you hear what Mike Johnson had to say, you're just like, are you for us? Like,
Are you against? And you're for
like
Donald Trump.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a story we've been following here for the last couple of days. Two suspects were arrested after a shooting that left one person dead and several people injured near Tennessee State over the weekend after the university's homecoming parade and celebration. Gunfire broke out between two opposing groups around 5 o'clock Saturday afternoon. Marquez Davis and DeAnthony Brown, both age 24, were arrested at a short term rental in Nashville and charged with criminal homicide, according to the Nashville police. The two men were suspected of being involved in Saturday's shooting, which took place near the university and led to the death of Bonquay Johnson, also a 24-year-old man, who was also believed to have been involved in the shooting. Nine other people were also shot and hospitalized. This Bonquay guy was the only fatality, and so nine other people uh, were were hospitalized for varying levels of injuries. And in total, five people are believed to have been involved in the exchange of gunfire, according to the police. It's just a shame that homecoming. That's a time for every. I mean, it's a big deal. Even in a
Yeah.
large town like Nashville, with an HBCU has a homecoming and the band and all that. And we can put on a parade like nobody
Alumni,
else.
all that.
Come on, come on. That's just a shame.
I mean, I'll never understand the not the courage, but the ability to put a gun in your hand and take somebody else's life.
Come on.
I mean, I'll never understand that. I mean, to defend yourself is one thing, but just to have no respect for life doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
And to see how often it happens,
Just
it's
crazy. It's like,
like,
man, are we really doing this? What about all the people who are there? That could be your grandmama. It could be your little sister. It could be
I'm like, even if you have a disagreement, even if you have a
a
bad blood
beef.
with somebody,
Come on.
to unalive somebody to attempt to unalive somebody
Wow.
and to take them from their families, and for what? And with a good chance of you probably ending up in prison.
Mm-hmm.
It makes there's no good end to it outside of
Right.
that other person, the person you hate being gone. But it gives you
And
nothing.
justify?
It doesn't justify anything. It doesn't give you anything. It doesn't give you, was it bragging rights?
Right.
I don't get it. I've never understood the mentality of it,
Right.
and I don't care. And I know we talked about it comes from kind of finances and money and black communities and stuff like that. I'm like, but still, you're killing somebody.
Right.
You're taking
Right.
a life and you're ending your own in the
Yeah.
same way. It's something I will never ever understand.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I although I think about owning a gun, I don't, and I don't know that I will ever be able to.
Hmm.
But sometimes, just the idea that people so casually pick it up, and as
Very casual,
and just stuns me.
and it's
Ned,
like, okay, done. I'm like, all right.
what's next? I see young Blake, and he looks like he's ready to go. I'm gonna
You know,
I'm gonna finish up entertainment in the Jewel. You guys get on home, and I appreciate your joining me today.
all right, got
Okay,
you.
sweetie. Bye, Blake.
Bye.
Bye. Before we wrap this up, I do want to remind people that the vice president is also going to do an interview with Fox News tomorrow. Um, she just come on, it's Sybil. I promise. No, I'm kidding. The network's chief political anchor, Brett Baer, is slated to interview her Wednesday in Pennsylvania, a battleground state. The interview will air tomorrow at 6 Eastern Time. And moving to entertainment, as if that's not entertainment. Congrats to filmmaker Spike Lee. He was inducted into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. Spike is renowned as a New York Knicks super fan. He was enshrined in the hall alongside other super fans, Billy Crystal, legendary actor Jack Nicholson, and a real estate developer, Alan Horowitz, as part of the Jimmy Goldstein Superfan Gallery. Established in 2021, the Superfan Gallery is named after the American businessman and longtime NBA fan James F. Goldstein and was created to honor the league's biggest and most tenured fans. The members of this year's Jimmy Goldstein Superfan Gallery were enshrined Sunday on the Jerry Colangelo Court of Dreams. Jerry Colangelo's Phoenix, was he? Court of Dreams is part of the Hall of Fame's Superfan celebration. And later that evening, the 2024 Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame class was inducted during a ceremony at Springfield's Symphony Hall. Congratulations, Spike. That's really cool. All those years of being an obnoxious little fan has paid off for you. Good for you. Um, we're going to close out with today's jewel. Although sometimes tough to hear, hard to hear, honest feedback is essential for empowerment. Though sometimes hard to hear, honest feedback is essential for improvement. Thank you for that, Yolanda. And thank you all for joining us today. We'll see you tomorrow. Don't forget, CK Hoffler's joining us. We're going to talk about voting irregularities. If something happens when you're at the polling place, here's what you can do. Here's who you can call. We're going to talk about that tomorrow in It's Sybil with Stephen Hill and Myra J. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow. Aloha.